Welcome back. Yeah, I'm picking up where I exactly left off. Sorry about that. I had to basically take care of having dinner. Now, there was a couple things I forgot to mention when it comes to this book. Now, yes, this book takes place right after Hulk DOA. That's from Hulk's perspective. But what about Iron Man? His takes place just after the final story arc of Iron Man Volume 5, Rings of Mandarin. Yep. Let's see what else. Oh, yes. What exactly happened with these two character series afterwards? Well, Iron Man didn't come back right away like Hulk's did. Nope, his got relaunched just 2 months later as Superior Iron Man, thanks to Access, written by Tom Taylor. Lasted 9 issues and didn't have a conclusion. Nope, the run just abruptly ended after 9 issues. Then we have the 8-month time skip thanks to Secret Wars. And we see Tony Stark is perfectly fine. He's no longer inverted. He is Spirit Power. He's inverted. Yeah, Bendis himself never properly explained what the heck happened. I mean, people have been asking Marvel now for 6 years, what the heck happened with Iron Man during the 8-month time skip? He is one character that a lot of people have been begging Marvel to answer this question. Did Bendis answer any of the books? Basically, he did. Nope. Did Dan Sly, who took over after him? Nope. Who knows if the current writer is going to cover this subject? I hope he does, because it has been 6 years since that happened. After Spirits Around, we had the Bendis run, which didn't last particularly as long as, let's say... Well, actually, if you look at it, it's slightly longer than the last couple runs. It's longer than Karen Gillian's run. Yeah, by a little bit. Though I would say it's not as long as Matt Fraction's run per se. And I've covered Bendis' run already, so no really fair shake there. And then we have Dan Slott's very brief run he had for Iron Man. Yeah, I'd say very brief, like 19 issues. And then he had Iron Man 2020, which that book led into that. And then we have the current book right now, which is really, really good. As the case of Hulk, what happened with him? Well, right after this particular thing wrapped up, he became Doc Green for about a year. And pretty much got rid of all the Get Power characters in the Marvel Universe, with the exception of himself and She-Hulk. Yep, in the Omega Hulk storyline. And then the book got relaunched. And Hulk, at least they've already explained what the heck would happen with him during the 8-month time skip. Yeah, he lost his gamma radiation. Of course, the book was taken by Great Pac. This lasted for a little over 2 years. It was even had a restoration of original numbering. First it was Totally Awesome Hulk. And then it became Incredible Hulk, with issue number, I think it was like 707. And it ended issue 717 after having two storylines, two story arcs that basically were sequels to classic Greg Pak stories, World War Hulk and Planet Hulk. And after that, we had the current run by Al Ewing, which is really, really good. I do recommend checking it out. So yeah, Hulk has basically been doing fine for the past 6 years. He's been doing great. No hits or misses when it comes to him. Not really, no. Iron Man, meanwhile, well, we had a good thing with Superior Iron Man. And Bendis, well, that's up and down for a lot of people. It's not a terrible run per se. Though I do agree with Frank Edgar. The biggest weakness of that run was the fact Iron Man fought none of his villains except for Madame Mask. Yeah, with the exception of that one character. Can you think of any of Iron Man villains that you fought the whole run? There was none. Dan Slott, well, you have the Controller. Yeah, Return of Sunset Bean. And that's it. I'm like, really? Yeah, being the Controller for like the first dozen issues, and did nothing with him after that. Currently, he's basically an underling for Karvak in the current storyline, which I'm really enjoying it. Hulk, meanwhile, Hulk's doing perfectly fine. Yeah, he had a book checking on brief by Armadeus Cho for a few years. Book is up doing fine. No really problem there. Alright, next up is, well, the end of Red Hood Outlaw. Excuse me, this is volume 4. On the Unspoken Truce. This collects issues 43 to 50. Now, as far as I know, there is no trade that collects the last 2 issues of the series. The last 2 issues are not much right at home about with these two. 50 and 52 is simply Red Hood back in Gotham, where he meets up with a woman who he basically starts a relationship with. And Bruce himself apparently proves odd panel. You see Batman, but not much to it at all. I'm kind of wondering, when they had that two-parter, they just felt like basically the series felt like was kind of bonus issues, because the way issue 50 ended, it kind of ended that was supposed to be the finale for the series, and 51, 52 was supposed to be the way they're written. It seemed like they're bonus issues, but for some reason not in this trade. I'm not really sure why. Now, yes, this is the end of an era when it comes to Red Hood Outlaw. Yes, in these 7 issues, well, actually 8. This collects 43 to 50 of Red Hood Outlaw. And yeah, this is the end of Scott Snyder. I think it's Dan Slott for Scott Snyder's run for writing Red Hood. Yes, written this character at this point, because the last issue came out last year. Wrote this character for 9 years. Long time. On and off. He did take a brief break when he briefly left the issue. I think it was like 18. They have Will Pfeiffer and Jameson the Fourth briefly took over the book. Jameson's issues are actually pretty good. Now, pretty much basically the way you have basically Scott Lobedl wrapping up a lot of plot threads here. Like, they wrap up the thing with Susie Sue, where officially now she and her sisters do officially own the Iceberg Lounge. Yeah, they officially own it now. Penguin's nowhere ever seen this book. Yes. One plot thread I kind of felt as though didn't really get wrapped up here, and that was Bunker. I kind of felt as though he got written off after like 2 story arcs. For some reason. Yes. And they also have they also basically conclude Bizarro's storyline with him being in hell and him sitting on the throne of skeletons. And also the relationship between Artemis and Jason Todd. Where apparently they do spend the night at the orphanage. Apparently was run by this woman named Ma Gunn. And they apparently had a one-night stand and doesn't go anywhere. Nope, because by the end of the book, they basically go their separate ways. And Red Hood himself, as far as I know, I think he's featured in Urban Batman number Legends currently. But as for Artemis, not featured in a book I can think of. Yes. Also, they have this really cool little subplot here of Ma Gunn, where she runs into Monsieur Mala and the Brain. And she refers to Brain by apparently his real name, named Ernest. Which I'm like, really? That's the Brain's real name, Ernest? It took DC like almost 50 years to figure out what the heck the Brain's real name is, because that was a mystery even to me. What the heck the Brain's real name even was. Simply for as the Brain. Yes, they do bring up the Brotherhood of Evil, which I'm glad they did, because that's a group they heavily associated with that. Monsieur Mala, I like the fact Lobedl writes to be very polite. Surprisingly, he doesn't have to speak with his French accent, which I thought that was kind of weird, that he didn't have it here. Now, Tony Bedard, when he wrote Monsieur Mala, he didn't have him speak French, but he had him swearing in French. Here, he doesn't really speak French. Monsieur Mala is supposed to be French, and he doesn't speak a French accent. I'm like, really? Why, Lobedl? Why? Yep. But this book, really, really good. Yes. And the artwork in here is done. Oh, yeah. They also bring back Essence. They bring back her here. They tap her plot there, too. These 8 issues have 4 different artists. You have Brett Boop, Travis Mercer, Chris Cross, and Palio Politia. Yep. For the end of this book, it's really good. I give this book roughly a 9.5 out of 10. Also, they do wrap up the stuff with Joker's daughter, which I think a lot of readers like, thank you, Lobedl, for ending that character. Yeah, he didn't kill a character off. He basically retired the character. Yep, had to briefly get back Joker's mask. Yeah, they brought it back in a tie-in for Joker War. Still an awesome story, by the way. Yeah, they brought her back in here just to be a quick tie-in, where she has an encounter with Punchline, which that's interesting. And then later on, they do kind of resolve this, where she gives up the face finally. It has nothing to do with the face salt. Basically, because of a brief team up with Artemis and Red Hood, she's like, I can't do this anymore. So basically, she just quits in the middle of a fight. Red Hood protects her, and then he sends her back home, apparently, to where it all began for her. The Joker's face itself is actually given away. She basically doesn't want anything to do with the mask, the face anymore. And, well, that's simply for the character. Yep, I think Lobedl pretty much retired the character that nobody liked. Yes, this was a character that was probably by far, in my opinion, and a lot of people might agree with me, for a lot of people, this character, Joker's daughter, was pretty much the most hated character in DC Comics. Nobody liked how this character was written. And pretty much all this character was a rebooted version of a classic version of the character that was introduced back in the early 70s, which they kept changing who the character really was. Yep. But yeah, 9.5 out of 10. Final thoughts on this whole series. Yes. Of Red Hood and the Outlaws Volume 1, Red Hood / Arsenal, and this book. Now, Red Hood and the Outlaws started back in 2011. Can you believe it's been 10 years? Almost 10 years since this book started? Yeah. And oh boy. Now, I will discuss a little bit basically about that in a minute. Now, it started very controversial with its opening issue. People hated the first issue. Was because of the way that Jason Todd was written? Nope. They have no problem with him. Roy Harper was basically depicted as sort of a okay, but later on became very whiny and wearing a trucker's hat. Yes, it's something that a lot of people didn't like very much. But the biggest problem people had with the book was with Starfire. Which, by the way, they do reference that in here as well, where they had the Outlaws in this book, meaning the Outlaws' previous book. It's sort of a time travel thing, which I know it's kind of confusing, time travel, but it was really good. It was basically makes sense, basically, because Scott that was ending his run the book. And the book itself became somewhat inconsistent, per se, throughout its run. It wasn't as bad as Green Arrow. Green Arrow was very terribly inconsistent, like, between every writer. Something between issues was so inconsistent. After Lobedl left issue 18, we had James Tynion take over for a few issues. And then Pfeiffer took over. And then the finish of the run, we had Lobedl come back. And he stayed with the book up until the relaunch. Yep. And I own pretty much the entire the Rebirth one. Now, I did talk to Lobedl about this particular run. Yes, when I actually met at Comic-Con, it was Main Orlando, I think it was about 2 years ago, I think it was. I told him that this run is better than his original run. Yes. And you know what? He was not upset with me. I would have thought he would have upset me because that basically I disrespected his work. He probably thought that. But no, he actually agreed. Yes. The fact that the current writer of the Outlaws run this run here is better than the original. And he actually was very grateful. He was very grateful for my opinion. It didn't come across, though, to me anyways, when I met him. This is, of course, when they changed to Red Hood Outlaw with issue number 26. Yeah, 26. I had a total number about 3 annuals. Yeah, 3 annuals overall published. Yeah, here's the first trade. This is Record for Archer. This came, of course, they also referenced the events of Heroes in Crisis. Yeah, I'm not really sure why they decided to change anything in the book, but it didn't really hurt the book at all. No, it just basically continued the numbering of Red Hood and the Outlaws. Says something to Marvel Comics who can't bother to do that anymore. When was the last time Marvel actually did that for a book? Where if they want to change anything in the book and, like, when was the last time they did not hit the restart button? Can you think of one? Like, what was the last book that did that? Where they continued numbering of one book and just changed the title. Let's see. As far as I can tell from Marvel, I think like the last book I could think of that did that was, I think it was from Hulk Volume 2, The Red She-Hulk. I think that was the last time I could think of that happened. Back in about 2013, was 2012 was the last time this happened? Yeah, that's the last time I can think of. Mm-hmm. Yep. DC, meanwhile, did twice in the past several years. Not only with this book, but also with New Superman, where for the final 6 issues of the series, it was known as New Superman and Just Like in China, which that book puzzled me of why the book ended for. At least Superwoman basically had a reason, low sales. New Superman didn't really have a reason. This book basically ending when it did at issue 50, or at least 52, mind you. I kind of felt as though the book ran its course. I think Lobedl wrapped up every single plot thread he could think of. I can't really think of a plot. The only plot thread I can think of he didn't really wrap up here was he didn't wrap up his stuff with Bunker. I kind of felt as though he basically got written off and whatever. One thing that was really cool about this run was the fact he had like, if you look at his first, like, 25 issues, he basically was revisiting stuff that not people like very much. Like, they had one issue where he revisited the culling. Namely, having the Outlaws, named the Suicide Squad, go back to the colony where they run into Harvest, who's dead. He got crucified. Yeah, I'm not really sure why. Another revisit basically brought back Bunker, which I thought was so cool to bring back that character. Because a lot of people didn't really like his run for Teen Titans, but Bunker's got his fans. Yes, Bunker has got a ton of fans. Yeah, despite the fact he's gay. Yeah, he's a gay character. But that's not intentionally part of his character. That's just simply just part of him, not part of his character. As far as I can tell, no problem with him being gay or being Hispanic. Yeah, Bunker, I believe, is Hispanic. And as far as I can tell, no one had a problem with that. It was something new. And he was a character very, very, very likable. I never seen any writer who wrote terribly. I mean, yeah, Lobedl was one who wrote a lot of the time. He wrote really well. Wrote basically as a fanboy of Red Robin, which is fine. Yep. But yeah, also they do bring Isabel in here. She's from the Red Hood Arsenal series, where Red Hood says, "Oh yeah, I love you, Isabel." And he's like, "Oh, thank you." Yep. And it was so obvious to anyone reading this book that Red Hood also had a thing for Artemis. I mean, what guy wouldn't? Artemis is hot. And one thing I was very critical about this run was the lack of progress of Jason Todd and Artemis. I kind of feel as though the relationship just didn't really progress at all. Well, this entire... I thought it was very interesting they made Artemis Red Hood's love interest. I mean, yeah, it seems as though in the case of Bizarre, it wasn't a love interest for him, per se. No. For him, it was more like basically a little sister. That's basically how he treated her. Where he basically was like a brother-sister relationship. Not the case of Red Hood. No, Red Hood was basically like it felt as though it was actual romance between the two of them that Lobedl was somewhat hesitant to do, probably because some idiot named Danny DeDeal didn't want to have superheroes in a relationship. Yeah. The whole idea of a Dark Trinity is a really interesting concept. I mean, yeah, the Dark Trinity made up of Red Hood, Artemis, and Bizarro. Great concept. I loved it. And it's something, though, that they kind of end the era of that. So, yeah, in the era where, like, so many Trinities, you have the original Trinity, Batman and Wonder Woman. You have the Magical Trinity, which is made up of John Constantine, Zatanna, and Deadman. The Dark Trinity is actually about a couple different ones. There's this one. It's also Lex Luthor, Cersei, and Ra's al Ghul. Excuse me, that was done in the pages of Trinity. Yep. But yeah, not much else to say about this book. It's good. And I do recommend trying out this particular book. If you're curious about the original volume, the original 40-issue volume, they also have 2 annuals, go ahead, try it out. But if you read that, you also got to read Red Hood Arsenal, and then you get this book. This book was just pure fun. I kind of felt as though Lobedl basically was trying to redeem himself after what happened with the first volume, Red Hood and the Outlaws. And he succeeded. He redeemed himself. I mean, there's nothing said Lobedl was a bad writer, per se. He just given crappy stuff to do. And this kind of the way has been redeeming. This basically, in my opinion, was Lobedl's redemption in the eyes of the fans for a lot of things he did. With a lot of the comic stuff he did. Though the guy himself basically is... I didn't talk about this when I met him at Comic-Con. There was at one point he was accused of sexually harassing a panelist at a Comic-Con. And the thing is, I did not want to discuss that with him at all. Because that's between him and his accuser. I did not want to discuss with him because it's something personal. And it's not something as a fan like myself need to dive into. I have no reason to dive into that at all. When I meet comic creators, I don't necessarily delve into their personal lives or deal with legal matters. I meet comic creators to talk about their work. That's the reason why I meet them. Not to talk about some side stuff. That so related to legal issues or their personal life. I don't, if they want to talk about their personal life, fine. I have no problem with that. But I mainly meet comic creators to talk about the comics they've worked on. Or stuff basically related to the characters in our media. Like, when I talked to Jerry Conway about how he felt about the Punisher or like Firestorm. When I told him how do you feel about Firestorm on TV, he was so happy. He was so happy about it. And who would he like of the four guys play Punisher? He would prefer John Bernthal of the four, which that's a good choice because I like that. I like that guy too as the Punisher. Mike Perkins, I asked him about Sebastian Stan. What do you think of him as Winter Soldier? His opinion, he does a great job playing the character. I mean, that's kind of response I like to hear from creators, and how they feel about characters they create, or at least help develop, create into live action. I do discuss about that. Lobedl himself, I have discussed with him about Jubilee, Bishop. I discussed about these two being in live action. Like, in the case of Bishop, like, did he have the dreadlocks? I told him yes, because it was featured in X-Men Days of Future Past. And he was happy to hear it. The fact that the Bishop, a character he helped create in comics, what was in live action, and Jubilee too. But in the case of his DC work, I can't think of any character created for DC that he created was in live action. Not that I can think of, no. If I do get a chance to meet him again, I'm still not going to discuss that the accusation he was accused of. I'm not going to discuss it with him. Because it's not my business. At all. No. Not in our business at all. One thing I will talk about them is comics. Because I like talking to comic creators, or in the case of some live action actor, about, like, if basically they're in anime, I talk about anime. If they want to talk about something else, I will talk about something else with them. By generally leading to when I meet these people at Comic Cons, I generally lead with what their work is. Comics. Or in the case of voice actors, the anime they're involved with. Simple as that. Okay? So yeah, that's it for Singular Review. Stay tuned for my next two reviews, which will be Shaman King and How Not the Semi-Demon Lord. Of the two, I'm going to do How Not the Semi-Demon Lord first, because there's not many episodes left to go for that one, so I figured I'll talk about them first. Then I'll do Shaman King. And that'll probably be it for today. Yep. Previous video. Bye.